aerial view of Vatican City State. Again, you enter through the entrance in this portion of that 9th century wall. St. Peter's Basilica. This complex of buildings, the Apostolic Palace, Pope's office and residence. And finally, this tiny structure right here, the Sistine Chapel itself. This is a view of the chapel, looking from the Vatican Gardens, so from west to east, which means from this perspective, St. Peter's Basilica to the right, to the south, the Apostolic Palace and Museums on the left, to the north. It also means the famous altar piece. The Last Judgment scene is on this wall, obviously, inside. Yeah. There's the first things that I said they painted, are these side panels here along the center. In 1508, Julius II commissions a man by the name of Michelangelo Buonarroti to paint the ceiling. And as you might imagine, Michelangelo enthusiastically responds well. 6 times he refused the commission. Michelangelo did not know how to paint, and he hated to paint. So he leaves Rome, Pope Julius sends troops after him, forcibly brings him back, and made him also refuse. It's a very Italian thing. However, he allows Michelangelo to paint whatever he wants to the ceiling. Part of the arrangement is that not even the Pope himself will see it until it's finished. But it's finished. 4 years later, in 1512, the Pope sees it as finished. And he goes this close to having the thing turned out. And the only thing that prevents him from doing so is that he drops down. The reason he's angry with the Pope by what he sees is twofold. Two reasons. One, artistic in painting the ceiling, and Michelangelo breaks every rule in art. So it's in fact, the first look at the ceiling is very confused and angry. Second, there is nothing explicitly Christian in the ceiling. He paints the story of creation as told by the book of Genesis, the first book of the Christian Bible, is the Old Testament, Hebrews, Quran. Moreover, he incorporates elements from ancient Greek and Roman mythology into the ceiling, looking at the city from this perspective. The front doors, the back of the chapel is up here. The altar piece above it is down here. And to read the ceiling, you begin at the altar and work your way backwards, specifically regarding a series of 9 panels along the center of the ceiling divided into 1, 2, 3 sections. First section, first panel, you see God swirling around in the chaos creating every ex nihilo, without a doubt. Second panel, God separating light from darkness. Third panel, God separating the waters above from the waters below, so the heavens and the earth. The creation of the cosmos, the creation of the universe. The next 3 panels, Michelangelo intentionally physical centrally locates in the entire ceiling. And these 3 panels are the most important places because of their theme, creation of humanity. Michelangelo is the height of God's creation. And the panels which most people are somewhat familiar, especially the first one, the most famous one, which art historians incorrectly call the creation of Adam, the creation of man. Michelangelo would call it that. If anything, he would call it one side of the coin, we could call the creation of humanity. When you're in the chapel and you're viewing the ceiling, you'll be viewing it as it's always intended to be from the ground up. It's only with modern photography that we can blow images up and see things we otherwise miss. If you put something too right, you can get in trouble for it. But if you're an artist or an architect, you can hide it. So, 476 square meters, 9,000 square feet, painted plaster, which Michelangelo did all by himself for 4 years, under complete secrecy. The first thing the man ever painted in his life. He intentionally left 10 square centimeters or 4 squares of plaster not painted. Adam's eyeball, which is bare plaster and no paint. Moreover, he intentionally left space between the fingertips of Adam and God. They're not touching, because this is Michelangelo's snapshot of a moment right before God puts the spark of life not chronologically first into Adam and man, and then into Eve, male and female, which is what the book of Genesis says. Rather, for Michelangelo, it's a simultaneous act. And so if you look at the big flowing cape behind God here, it's actually the shape of the human organ. Any guesses as to which organ in the human body they look like?
Brain.
Yeah, it's the right hemisphere of the human brain. These guys regularly dissect human corpses to study human anatomy. So why is Michelangelo doing this? Show off his knowledge of human anatomy, probably. To be cute and clever? No. The idea is that creation of humanity. God never intends to create one sex before the other, which everybody does say that God creates humanity in God's image and likeness, male and female, into the still like less eyeball about it. What Adam here is not yet God. Michelangelo, humanity is not humanity, unless it's Adam and Eve. Both that matter and Adam. So the next panel is the flip side of the so-called creation of Eve. It's also interesting to note that it's this panel which Michelangelo most centrally locates in the entire ceiling, and in this panel, the most important placement. Third panel in the central series are two scenes in one. On the left side, the temptation and fall of the Garden of Eden. On the right side, the consequence of that, Adam and Eve take the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and so are expelled from the garden. They have children. Their son Cain murders their other son Abel. Things rapidly deteriorate, and finally God says, wow, I'm God and everything, but I think I blew this one. So I'm going to pretend like nothing ever happened, light go out, maybe I'll start over. By sending a flood. And so the last two panels are highlights of the flood story, book of Genesis. Here you see Noah's Ark in the back. On the sides of the ceiling, 12 very large human figures. 7 men, 5 women. 7 men are the major prophets from the Old Testament, the Christian Bible. Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah. 5 women are the major ancient Greek oracles and Roman siblings, kind of like prophets in the ancient Greco-Roman. The idea is that they're contemplating the story of creation at the center and what went wrong here. And in their writings, prophets, oracles, and siblings like that, they always mention at some point the eventual coming someday of someone who will go back to this moment and undo what was then done. A new Adam and a new Eve, which the Christian tradition winds up becoming Jesus Christ and his mother. He begins this 1508, finishes it 4 years later, 1512. It's unveiled. At the same time, the private orchestra of Pope Julius II, which we will see, is unveiled, having been painted by the famous great rival of Michelangelo, a man named Raffaello Santi da Urbino Raffaello Raphael. When the projects are unveiled, Raffaello falls into deep depression. He already could not stand Michelangelo personally. Michelangelo famously had a very bad temper, difficult character. He used to get in public street fights here with guys like Raffaello and Leonardo da Vinci, for that Leonardo. He falls in this depression because when the projects are unveiled, now the undisputed better painter is no longer the more famous of the two at the time. He was the Pope's architect, Raffaello, the sculptor, Michelangelo. We think Raffaello got over his anger, hostility, aggression, became a better artist with a little help from none other than Leonardo. When he heard about these projects, he decided to come to see for himself. We're almost done. Fast forward 22 years, 1534, the year now Michelangelo was commissioned to paint the altarpiece of the Sistine Chapel. 2 decades after the ceiling, he has improved as a painter. Human bodies are much more developed. All the movement in the composition is focused around the optical center. This figure, Jesus Christ, whose right arm is raised up. Everyone surrounding is kind of frozen in time, in the end, as if they're waiting for something. They're waiting for us for Christ to pass final judgment on humanity. So this is Michelangelo's photographic snapshot of the Lord right in his mind is heaven, on earth, and in hell. Up in heaven, this guy sitting on the cloud, in his right hand he's holding a knife, in his left hand he's holding a skin. This is supposed to be one of Jesus Christ's first 12 apostles, followers, a guy named Bartholomew, who according to tradition was executed in the 1st century by being skinned alive. In any event, if you look at the skin that he's holding, if you look at the face, and the skin that he's holding, it's Michelangelo's self-portrait. It's one of the few times he ever depicted himself in his own art. And lastly, if you look at the figure of Christ, 2 things in particular. The right arm raised up, and the torso, the body of Christ, because we're now in a little bit when you see the 2 models Michelangelo used here in the Vatican 500 years ago in order to create this picture. Okay? So like I said, hopefully I'll make the time in the chapel meaningful, worthwhile for you. All right, with that, we're going to go. Take this